Tēnā koutou katoa. I wanted to give you a very brief update on using your Tiva board to complete your heli-rig project. Milestone 1 requires that you read ADC channel 9 to measure the altitude of the helicopter. This is a specification not just in milestone 1, it's going to persist into milestone 2 and for the rest of the project. So ADC channel 9 comes out on pin E4 on our Tiva board. So far, so good. The only problem is that the orbit board, which sits on top of the Tiva board, also has plans for pin E4. It tries to send interrupt signals to that pin. The interrupts are active low. This means the Tiva board will apply pull-up on that pin. And so most of the time, the voltage on that pin, when it's not low for an interrupt, will be high, 3.3 volts. And this means if we try to read an analog voltage from that pin, the analog voltage we're going to read is going to be about 3.3 volts. It's not going to be the variable voltage that we expect as the altitude of the helicopter changes. Oh dear, what can we do about this? Well, we've got three options. The first is to, well, all three options really, break the connection between the Tiva board and the orbit board through pin E4. And the first option is just to cut pin E4, the male pin for port E4 off the Tiva board. And we can see how to do that. Grab yourself a pair of side cutters, find pin E4, make sure you have the right pin, give a squeeze, and there we go. No more pesky header pin going from your Tiva board to your orbit board. You will be able to measure the altitude of the helicopter correctly now. Alternatively, if you would prefer to keep your Tiva board pristine, you can operate on your orbit board. So we can do a little bit of tracing between the header that connects to pin port E4, the port E4 pin on the orbit board. It turns out that trace travels along the back of the orbit board and it goes to resistor 35. And so if we cut that trace anywhere between where it pops out after our E symbol and resistor 35, that will solve our problem for us. Alternatively, if you would rather not cut your trace, if you want an option that you could potentially undo later on, you can very carefully desolder resistor 35 on the back of your orbit board. It's an 0402 resistor. Scott Lloyd in the Surface Mount Lab can help you with that if that's the path you'd like to go down. What are the interrupts that the orbit board tries to send back to the Tiva? The orbit has an accelerometer chip on it, and that accelerometer can send interrupts when different events occur. For instance, when the acceleration changes very quickly. It can send those interrupts over two different pins though, and we're essentially breaking the connection to one of those pins. So the real damage we're doing to our Tiva kit is hopefully minimal. I trust that's been helpful to you. All the best with your projects, and I'll see you in labs later in the week.